I'm going to tell you who actually could, and this will blow your mind when I say it. Finally, Steve, Stephen A. Smith, on his own podcast, I believe, or somewhere, told someone that he could be next in the ESPN layoffs. ESPN's had a bunch of layoffs. Stephen A. Smith said he could be next. Here's the thing, Steve, though. I think it's crystal clear if you follow Stephen A. Smith, he's extremely restless. I think he's bored with First Take. I think he's bored with sports. I think he wants to be a nighttime talk show host for a major television network. I think he wants out of ESPN. And when I heard him make that comment about he could be next in the layoffs at ESPN, I was like, this is a guy that's been upset ever since Joe Buck and Troy Aikman got paid more than him. Now Pat McAfee's getting paid more than him. And he is trying to leverage ESPN into overpaying him, perhaps $20, $25 million a year, and or he just wants out of ESPN. And it makes me think that I wonder if Fox Sports and just Fox isn't a possibility if that's not connected to the Skip Bayless thing. And if you agree with me, that Stephen A. Smith is just restless and tired of being at ESPN. He goes on his own little individual podcast and talks about everything but sports. Guy came off vacation to talk about the affirmative action Supreme Court decision. This guy's done. He's frustrated talking about sports. He wants to move on to bigger and better things.
Well, by the way, the PhD, Dr. Stephen A. Smith, said that when white people get the cold, we get pneumonia. So my question is, what do we get, yellow fever? Anyway, I'm noticing an interesting pattern with old Stephen A. here. He stays on code on First Take for the most part, but when he does his own podcast, he gets off code. He made a comment about the violence in cities like Chicago, and I was like, whoa, Stephen A's going to get he's off code. The community's not going to be happy. But then he goes back and says this about, hey, I could be next. He's playing this game of checks and balances to keep, I think, one side very happy and placated with his statements, but then also his own personal beliefs. I think it's fascinating to see how he vacillates between the two. Now, to your theory, is he bored with ESPN? Jason, I think you have a point when you say he's bored with just talking about sports. There comes a time where even him, a guy of his stature that's covered the NBA, he doesn't want to do any more who's better, LeBron or Kobe Bryant debates. He really doesn't. He doesn't even want to talk about, is Tom Brady the GOAT? How good is Bill Belichick without him? We've all done it. And Jason, you probably went through the same thing because most of what you cover now is not sports. You have branched out. You have evolved. Stephen A. in his own mind probably believes if there's going to be another version of Arsenio Hall, who's never been replaced, I believe, in that realm, he thinks it could be him. And I'm going to give Stephen A. some credit. I remember about 15, 16, 17 years ago, he did a show, I think it was called Quite Frankly or something, with Stephen A. Smith, where it was kind of like a talk show, had a live studio audience. He did a monologue. He had some pretty good guests. Actually did a lot of boxing. Jason, I hope you're sitting down. I thought that show was good. I enjoyed it. And he probably thinks, you know what, let me expand my horizons where I could do pop culture, politics, other issues, and delve into a little bit of sports. That's me. I'm the new Arsenio. So I think there's a lot of truth to what you say.
See, Arsenio Hall, a skilled and talented comedian.
Yes.
Stephen A. Smith, not a skilled and talented comedian. Seriously, he's just not. That's a real skill. He's not comedic. He's not funny. He does some occasional things that'll put a smile on your face, but I mean, he would be so dependent on writers.
Aren't they all?
And
Jason, aren't they all?
No. Eddie Murphy. You watch these guys getting interviews. Watch a Jamie Foxx getting an interview, and the guy's just funny organically and can do stuff just off the top of his head. Not all these guys are dependent on writers. Not the best ones, no.
Jason, if he believes he can do it, and he's willing to say, I'm gonna walk the tightrope and be like the Melendez, they take away that safety net, I'm gonna do this, I will give him credit. And by the way, if Magic Johnson is allowed to give his hand a try at this,
there you go.
Why not Stephen
There
A.
you go.
Smith?
Magic Johnson, perfect example.
Yeah, the Magic Hour. God, dog, that was the
Tragic
worst
Hour.
thing.
Yeah,
The
you
Tragic
want a
Hour.
remake of the Tragic Hour with Stephen A. Smith.
And you know what? I give Magic credit. He ruined the career of Craig Shoemaker, a white guy, and really damaged the career of Tommy Davidson, a black guy. See, that's fair. That's equity. That is equity. That was a terrible.
Let me tell you who actually could. I'm going to tell you who actually could, and this will blow your mind when I say this. Shannon Sharp could do what you're talking about.
Ooh, he's kind
He
of
could
delving into it.
replace Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, I look, Arsenio Hall from 1989 to about 92 was, to me, Camelot. It was the other version of Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show. Nobody's been able to replicate it. It was a cultural and national phenomenon. I don't think Arsenio gets enough credit to this day for the greatness of that show. I've always thought the one guy that had the natural all-around skill and personality to pull it off, and I hope he's okay, and it's interesting you brought him up yesterday on Twitter. I think Jamie Foxx is the only guy that has the all-around skill to do it, but I think he's past all of that. But if Stephen A. Smith thinks he could be a version of Arsenio Hall, I'd like to actually see it. Let's see what happens, because Stephen A. in his own mind, I believe, has outgrown sports.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.